Hi, friends. This is Will Parker. Before I jump into this week's episode, I just wanted to say thank you for reaching out to me. If you are experiencing school closures, which most of you are across the U.S. and the world, uh, thanks for sharing ideas about ways that you're serving your students during this time. And for those of you that are still planning and trying to think of ideas, I would love to be able to share out with you the different things that I'm learning from principals. In fact, before I jump into this week's episode, I just want to share a quick conversation that I have with a listener and friend in Nye County, Nevada, Terrence Simmons. I'm here with Terrence Simmons, who is an administrator at Floyd Elementary in Nye County, Nevada. Terrence, good morning. I would love for you to give us an update on what's going on with your students and school community, because I know you have been working nonstop since the announcement was made for school closures with the coronavirus in your district. So give Principal Banners listeners an update of what you guys have been doing and how you're still serving your students.
Before I start, I just want to say I commend all teachers, all the staff members, and all the members of our wonderful country for all the work they're doing to stay positive and push through this crisis. I first want to say our leader, Dale, Evie, Kyle, and our superintendents and our L team has came together to really kind of create instruction at agents plans for every student within the county. So what we're doing is all the teachers we all band together school by school, each grade level had to create a plan for how our students are going to receive instruction. And that was just within 3 days because we actually started working on this during our spring break. From there, we had two modes. One was a packet. The second one was online, where for elementary, it looked more like Lexia, Alex, and Google Classroom assignments. And then from there was packet work that I actually worked on with Wonders, Everyday Math, and a little bit of Zern mixed in as well. And so where we were able to, within, I'll say a 2-day period, have all those packets and all those materials ready for at least 2 weeks. There it came into the part was how we're going to get that delivery system to the parents. We did ask our teachers to create it, and they were able to do this virtually as well, to contact every parent, ask them what is the proper means for communication, the proper means for them to get to work. Many of our parents did have access to internet, so they were able to receive the work on lessons online. This also allowed us with the online module to be able to not only just grade the work, but be able to give feedback and communicate with the parents on anything to support the instruction. Another thing that our leader asked us for us to do is to give every parent a schedule from 9 to 3, what things done. And so like kind of like at what school is. And so that is what instruction at a distance looks like. At 9 o'clock, you should be working on reading. From at 9:30 for like if a kindergarten class, your first thing that you do is days of the week and kind of walk all the parents through that so it can actually be implemented with the access to content and then also the access to the teacher. We are actually having our teachers, and some of our teachers are doing it openly. Some teachers, 6 days, call 6 students per day, just to kind of get feedback, checking with the students. Some teachers are setting up work hours and say, hey, this class, just contact me. I'm here for this time. But all of our teachers are accessible to our parents virtually and by phone, just to make sure that there's good communication. So instruction does continue.
Wow.
And this has been amazing. One thing I was really excited about was since we do deliveries from our bus stops and at our site at the school, we were able to pass out the work at the site and on the bus stops, and that delivery method went very, very well. So we've been having a lot of success and been still being able to, at a distance, support our parents and give them the meals and give their children instruction and give out hope as well. I want to also commend our leader, Lori Metro. She is just doing a fantastic job. She's been passing out. We had extra books, so we made sure as many students as possible got an extra book, a couple of books, paper, supplies, and just a little bit of the high. And, whenever they come for the meals, we have music playing just to kind of add more joy. And even our custodian, who, when the students are passing by or the cars are passing by to pick up the meals, he always says, I miss you, because he really does miss you. So we, as a whole team effort, Nye County and Nye County has done a fantastic work around our communities.
Wow. So how does that look each day for your community when kids are, when you're trying to take care of food services?
So we're doing it drive-by style, everything. We're still being social distancing. And so two of our sites actually, like, parents can come up, and then we have a place where our buses are actually going around and following their same bus routes, and then they're picking it up there. So there's two places, and they just do it like the bus will pull up, and car by car, people come pick up the meals, and they pick up a breakfast and lunch, and then they go for it.
Wow. Well, Terrence, I am so thankful that your school community has you and the team that surrounds you to take care of your students. And I know that you're one of thousands across the nation right now of school leaders that are doing the same thing. What words of or thoughts do you have as we close this conversation for school leaders as they face the coming weeks? And for some of us, we may be looking, I know some school districts across the nation and the world have closed for the school year. And some are looking at the several weeks ahead, trying to decide what they're going to do. What words do you have for administrators, especially who are looking at what it's like to be a leader from a distance?
I think the most important thing is stay positive, communicate as much as possible. Thank God we live in the era of Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I mean, there's so many ways to kind of push out your message, but just staying positive and letting people know that we as a nation are to get through this and be stronger. And we are here to support you any way we can. Keep the lines of communication going. And for the teachers out there, thank you, thank you, thank you. I mean, teachers are the hardest working people ever, and they're out there every time. And so we all know that as a nation, as a community, as a group of people, that we could get through this. So that's my message. And if anybody has any questions about what we're doing, feel free to contact me as well.
Terrence, thank you so much for doing What Matters, and we will be talking to you again soon. I hope that conversation was helpful for you. And if you want to share with me some things that you're doing with your schools, please reach out to me at will@williamdparker.com. As I talk to principals here in my state and across the U.S. and the world, I am excited to learn how you're serving your students. Thank you to Nova Chetty from South Africa, who emailed me this past week as well about the crisis that's happening there and the measures that they're taking through e-learning with their students to keep them on track. Thank you to all of you for the work that you are doing. I hope that you'll enjoy this continuing series that I've been doing with Jen Schwanke about her new book, Reboot for Principals. If you have not checked out that book, please go online to Amazon or to ASCD and grab a copy this week, because you're going to want to keep learning with Jen. So thanks again, and I'll talk to you soon. Principal Matters Podcast, episode 187. Hi, friends. This is Will Parker, host of Principal Matters, the School Leaders Podcast, where each week I bring you inspiring, innovative, and imaginative ideas for your own school leadership. This week, we are joined again by my co-host, Jen Schwanke, to talk about maintaining balance as a lead learner. Jen Schwanke is the principal of Indian Run Elementary in Dublin, Ohio, and the author of 2 books, You're the Principal Now What, and her newest book coming out March 17th, The Principal Reboot, 8 Ways to Revitalize Your School Leadership. Jen, welcome back. It's so great to see you again. And I know last week we talked a lot about being a lead learner in your school, professional development, mindset, reading. And as we wrapped up that conversation, you and I were talking off the air about how do we make sure that principals don't feel overwhelmed by those expectations. And so we wanted to circle back this week and just talk about the balance that's important as you continue to be a lead learner. So I just want to give you a moment to just talk for a second about why is it important for principals to be thinking about balance, even as they're thinking about growth?
Right. We felt like we had so much more to say on this topic. So I'm glad we're back to readdress it. You know, I think this job is so complex and it's so ever changing. And as we spoke about in a previous episode, the work is never really done. There's always another problem to solve, and we can't predict what those problems are. And all of that can really be disheartening after a while. It's exhausting. And sometimes I find myself thinking, what am I even doing here? Mm-hmm. And when that question creeps into my mind, I try to stop and actually answer it. And by that, I mean, wait a minute, why am I here? And I've talked to a lot of principals who have to think about that question pretty deeply before they come up with an answer. And their answers tend to be more inherent parts of themselves than something like paycheck or boy, I really like having the master key, or I just always wanted an office. Nobody says those things. People say, I don't know. I had a desire to lead, or they said, I recognize some areas where I felt my skills and my instincts could help kids, community, school grow and change. And so rarely does someone say that the reason they're there is anything other than something inside them to do better, to lead, to change. So I think asking that question of yourself and coming up with an answer really helps kind of balance the scales again, so that you're not there for reasons that won't fulfill you for the long term.
Yeah, that's such an important place to start. And it's such a hard place to come back
Right.
to sometimes, because I know that in reality, there are a lot of competing interests for people to step into school leadership. And you and I have talked about this before,
Right.
but like, how do I increase my income?
Right.
So, well, maybe as a teacher, I've reached a ceiling. And so I look at the opportunity to become an administrator. But you and I both know that if the paycheck is the motivation for stepping into school leadership, that motivation will only last about maybe 2 hours into
Right.
into the job, or if the
Exactly.
motivation is power. Like, for instance, you might think, well, if I was in charge,
Right.
then these things would be working out. And so maybe suddenly you got a handful of keys, the master keys for the building, and you're like, oh, I'm in charge.
In charge, right.
That lasts for about 2 hours too. When
Right.
when you're confronted with the realities of school-wide problems, school-wide difficulties, because it's like taking the classroom and multiplying the level of stress by 10
Right.
or 20 or 30, whatever it is, because you're now responsible for managing all of the processes and conflicts and expectations and celebrations
Right.
that are happening around your entire school. And so how do you keep that mindset? How do you keep yourself focused on the why?
Right. Well, and I want to land for a moment on that income piece, because when I speak with principals, a lot of times I'll tell them, that comment you hear from teachers, well, that's why you make the big bucks.
Mhm.
And in all reality, a lot of times, if you balance out the per diem, principals make less. And there are also many salary schedules out there where a teacher takes a pay cut to be a principal. And when they do that, I think, wow, either they can't do math or they really want to lead.
Mhm.
I think about a time I was having a bad day as a principal. This was 5 or 6 years ago. And I said to my boss, I just want to go back to the classroom. I don't think this is for me. I'm tired of it. I can go do my last 15 years as a teacher. And she laughed and laughed and laughed. And I said, what are you laughing at? And she said, you would be down in that principal's office every single day talking about, well, here's a more efficient idea. Here's how we can fix this. She said, you just can't hide when there's leadership inside you. And I really agree with her. So all grumping aside, I kind of pulled up my bootstraps and said, okay, I'm gonna do this. But it's the fact that we want to lead beyond the issues of income or beyond the issues of ease and getting out of school at 3:30, those kind of things are out the window when we decide to be a principal, and knowing that and recognizing that why we're doing it really helps.
Yeah. And Jen, sometimes when I'm trying to focus on the why, this sounds counterintuitive, but sometimes the best way for me to understand my why is to not necessarily like try to find the answer in the why, is to actually turn my eyes back on the people I'm serving.
Right.
So there's this weird dichotomy that happens when you're struggling with, man, why do I really do this? If you start trying to make a list of pros and cons, you're probably not going to find yourself.
Right.
But if instead you switch your focus over to the people that you're serving, those students and those teachers, and you think about that human experience that you're having, that's where you start finding your why. And
Right.
so let's talk a little bit about that, because I think that's an important way for us to remember our whys. What are some of the ways that we should be relaxing and enjoying our work? And I know I know it sounds impossible to do a good job as a principal and enjoy it at the same time, but that's really not impossible.
Well, this is actually my favorite topic of all.
Mhm.
I love this because I do enjoy the work. And I'm going to start with the most important, which is laughter, laughter, laughter. There used to be a great little ditty in the Reader's Digest, if you read that as a kid, and it was called Laughter is the Best Medicine. And they were funny, funny, funny little ditties or comics or phrases, sayings, whatever. And I truly try to laugh throughout my day, not in any way of making fun of the work or people or issues, but I find students delightful, and I love the funny things they say and do. And I love my office culture is such a healthy, strong one. We tease one another. We absolutely laugh at ourselves. We enjoy celebrating one another. And so we just try to laugh. And when you have that within you and within your school culture, people are okay to just celebrate the silly. It really is healthy. I once worked in a school briefly where the culture was one of silence and closed doors, and laughter would have truly felt like a foreign sound when students weren't there. And I think that's not healthy. It's toxic, and it really does wear you down. So if there's something funny, throw back your head and have a good belly laugh. That's a great way to start.
I think it's therapeutic. There are times where we have been, and I can think back to other administrative teams that I've been on that have had healthy laughter, but there's times where we were facing really difficult situations that we could close the door for a few minutes and then just try to find the humor in it. And just, I'm talking belly laughter, just absolutely cutting loose, having some fun together. And suddenly you're kind of getting perspective again. Like, okay, I can face this situation now with a little bit of humor, and and I know that it's actually like anatomically good for you to laugh.
It is.
It's so good for you.
My assistant principal, Jacqueline Pallone, she and I laugh and laugh. I mean, she just has these mannerisms that crack me up. And she teases me about my physical humor, because I will, get down on the floor and imitate something, or, I'm one for dramatics. And so I will just act something out, and we will all of a sudden be just hooting with laughter. And then, like you said, then we open the door and get back to the work. It's very therapeutic. And also, I think it's fun to bring students into the laughter. The other day in the office, we were having just an absolute chaos moment. Everything was falling apart. There were parents and secretary teachers, and there was a little boy who had come to do some work in the office. And he looked at me and he said, and Mrs. Pallone right next to me, he said, "Is this your daily basis?" And just the way he said it with such shock and dismay, we laughed and we said, yes, this is our daily basis. So finding the students, finding the way they look at the world, and the joy in that truly does just lift you up, and it gives you that connection with students, staff, and community that really helps us stay healthy.
Oh, it does. It's amazing. I'm having a memory of a time that I was interrogating a student with another assistant principal, and I remember catching her eye across the office as I was interrogating this kid, and she was giving me this look like, "Will, you're just almost comical because you're looking." It's I just remember, here we're in this moment of like serious interrogation, and I'm catching her eye and realizing that she's making fun of me. Which is great, because I needed to lighten up a little bit. I was way too serious. And so sometimes it's just so important to keep the humanity in your work. And so celebrating the silly, recognizing in each other. When I would start getting a little too high on my horse too, as a principal, one of my assistant principals would she'd say, this is horrible, but she would say, "Okay, Michael." "Okay, Michael, greatest boss in the world." So she would completely call me out if I was starting to like inch into that place where I was thinking a little too highly of myself.
Right.
I love it, because it puts you right back into the moment and keeps you in your place. And so,
absolutely. If you want to have fun, just find somebody who's good at imitation and ask them to imitate you. That'll bring you right back where you need to be.
Well, talk a little bit, Jen, about the power and the importance of connecting with your students, your staff, and your community.
That's really why we're all here, don't you think? Is those connections. And when I start to feel out of balance, it's usually because that connection isn't there. And usually it manifests itself in guilt. I think, gosh, I just haven't seen, certain staff members in a while, or I haven't put myself into the lunchroom to connect with students enough. Sometimes it manifests itself in a feeling where your school feels an isolated part of the community. And so I think just revisiting those, and, we could do episode after episode on specific ways to do that. But every school's different, every community is different, and so the needs are different. But if you as the principal feel that connection to the people and the stakeholders that matter the most, I think it gives you a level of calm and composure and enjoyment with the work.
It does. It refuels you. I mean, it's almost like, I don't know. I've talked to so many principals, especially elementary at your level, who will tell me, if I can just get into a kindergarten class today and read, I know it will fill my tank. Or in the secondary level, for me, that was, if I could just get out into a classroom
And sometimes I would take a part. If they're reading Shakespeare, I would ask for, can I take a part?
Right.
And I could just read with them. Or
Right.
maybe it's just walking out and standing in the middle of the band while they're rehearsing, or stepping into a practice and just hearing the bouncing balls and watching kids have fun, and just reconnecting with, this is why we're here. This is the reason that we do this work. And it brings me back to my why.
I don't know why it's so hard to take the first step to do those things, but when we do, over and over and over, I hear people say it filled them up. I recently coached a basketball team, a youth basketball team. Now, I had coached earlier in my career at the school level, but I was now coaching again. And the first week, I was so grumpy. I did not want to do it. I wanted nothing to do with it. I wanted to go home and put on my jammies and be alone. But boy, by the end of the season, I was weeping right along them when we brought home a trophy. It does. It just really, really increases your connection to the world. And I think that there's other ways to do that too. And particularly at the secondary level, there's student travel. There's many schools have student trips. And boy, if you can get yourself on one of those trips as a chaperone, as someone who goes along just as a helper, many, many different opportunities there. And that you usually come home exhausted, out of toothpaste and ready for a nap. But you also come home thinking, that was a piece of me that I had forgotten and left behind.
And you're also building capital with the relationships that happen in those moments too. So just like whether it's going on a school trip or just spending time with a group of kids in a classroom setting, inevitably at some point that adult or those kids, you're going to have situations that come up later that maybe there's a problem that has to be resolved or a conflict that needs to be addressed. But now you've got emotional capital, those people to pull from, because they don't just see you as the role. They don't just use the principal badge. They don't just see you as this person with a title. You're human. You're the one that spent time with them. You care about them. You actually have been connected with them or laughed with them. And so now you have some emotional capital to pull from, because you're going to need that.
Right. Another way too that I connect with staff, students, and community is, and don't laugh at me, Will, because we all hate the word committee, but jumping on a committee and just immersing yourself in the actual boots on the ground work that people are doing can really help you connect with others. And also start a new one. If there's something huge that's always a problem in your building or something that you just can't seem to solve on your own, start a new one and say, all right, guys, I'm flummoxed with this one. I need some help. And lead some change really at the committee level. And I think that that's a way too to just connect with others. And it leaves you vulnerable because you've said that you have a problem you don't know how to solve. And it also shows that you haven't lost that again, boots on the ground work ethic that started you off in the first place. Sometimes this feels a little counterintuitive, but if you do it mindfully and carefully and thoughtfully with a goal in mind, I think it can really fill you up,
Wow. Okay, park there, Jen, because that's challenging me. No, that's really great. I've never had anyone give me that suggestion. So, so I want you to give me an example. What's an example in your practice where you've decided to just jump into something like that, where you've actually it's helping you create balance instead of giving you more time? Because to me, it sounds like it would be like just one more thing to do. Tell us that story of how it's helped you.
I did this a couple of years ago, and I'm gonna admit that it was not, the intention was not to reconnect, but that was the outcome. I had a lot of feedback because the school I'm currently leading is an older school, built in 1961, and over time they had a mascot that had grown politically incorrect, so it was kind of scrapped, and there was really no phrase or no mascot that defined us, and people kept mentioning this, and I would kind of well, then finally I thought, you know what? I need a little boost. I need to figure this out. So I'm going to start a committee. And so we started a motto mascot committee, and I got people, students, parents, teachers, and we really talked about who we were. Kids wrote poems, which turned into, by the way, a song that later is our defining song. And we had a new motto, which was, It was voted upon by our community, and the motto is, "What begins here will change the world."
Oh.
We had a parent who was a graphic designer, and he made us a new logo. And all of this kind of unveiled itself very naturally and very authentically. And it was a lot of work. And honestly, it was marketing, which is not my skill set at all, but I had to learn it. And all of a sudden, I had teachers, I had parents, I had community saying, "We love it. We love what this says about us and who we are." So it was a lot of work. And yes, I started a committee, but rather than roll my eyes about the existence of committees in my work, I was able to make it my own. And it really not only enhanced my connection, but I think it brought a lot of us together too. So
oh my gosh, that's amazing.
We evolved.
Yeah, good finish, because I want to celebrate.
Yeah, I was going to say it was a nod toward evolution too, because especially if you're leading a school that's been around for a long time, and let's say you've always been the Tigers. I'm not at all saying don't be the Tigers. Just be maybe Tigers in 2020. Figure out, maybe a new way of marketing yourself, a new way of branding yourself. You don't want to upend something that's worked for a long time, but you might just give it a little bit of a glint or a little bit of more sunshine on it to make it brighter. And you've got people who have ideas, and they're just maybe waiting for the leader who says, "Hey, we're going to do something. We're going to make this, we're going to evolve our whole entire schema of who we are into this current year we're living in."
Oh my goodness, Jen, that's so inspiring. And I'm going to completely put you on the spot right now.
Oh, do it. I'm ready.
Do you know the song?
Oh, I do. I have it over here. I have the sheet music. I can't
Bring it
sing
on.
though. I can't
Bring it on,
sing
Jen.
it.
Come on. I want to hear it.
Oh my gosh. It's called "We Are Indian Run."
Okay.
You're not asking me to sing, are you?
Can speak it. I just want to hear it.
Okay. All right. I'll speak it because I can't sing it. My father's the musician. And let me just tell you, this was students who wrote poems. And then we actually hired a composer from a neighboring university. And he came in and somehow he wrestled the poems into a song. And then together the students put it to music. And so it's a 2-verse song. I won't read the whole thing, but it begins, "Everyone is different, but we live as a community. I'm reading it in the notes that it's written here. Different cultures coming together in unity. We work together every day to show we care by what we say. Each one of us a speck of light, but all together, clap, 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 we shine bright." And then it ends with, "And we're stronger together. Together we are one. What begins here will change the world here at Indian Run."
Yes.
So
yes.
And then there's another verse too. I'm blushing a little bit, Will.
Oh, that's great.
But so we play that song on our video announcements, and we play it to open our assemblies, and it really is just this cool thing. All the kids know the song, and if you want to be inspired and have the hair on the neck stand up, have 700 kids shouting that song at the same time. It's super cool.
Oh, Jen, okay. I'm just going to pause for a second. Principal Matters listeners, I just want you to think about where we started this conversation at the beginning of the show. How do you find your why? How do you maintain balance in the hard journey of leadership? And Jen, the story is such a great way to cultivate returning to your why. You pulled together with people based on feedback. There's something we need to change here. And then you pulled in, you brought them together, and then as a result, here you have a new motto, new mascot, a new logo, a new brand, and your students now have a new mission. Right. And every day they're singing this song together in your school. And I'm going to challenge you at some point to take your mic, and I want to hear them sing it.
Oh, that would be fun. Yes.
And we can maybe share a clip with our listeners. But thank you for that story. That's such a great example, because when you started talking a few minutes ago about, jump on a committee, I mean, my brain went to, what? How? I can't imagine that inspiring.
Right.
And now I'm so inspired. So Principal Matters listeners, I hope you are too. Jen, I know that there's so many other things we can unpack from that. Any other thoughts you have before we move into another suggestion?
No, I think that, boy, I just sang loud on a mic. So I think I could take a moment away from that.
Well, and thank you for letting me put you on the spot.
No problem. I'm teasing.
Which leads me to this next point, which I think is an important thing for us to talk about with leaders, which is being willing to do something brave and bold. Why is that such an important part of maintaining your why as a leader?
I talk to a lot of principals who feel like they're in such a rut. They feel like every day, it's different problems, but it's really the same problem over and over. I actually talked to a building principal who had gotten a different job, and I said, how's it going? And he literally said to me, same problems, different address. So, he was tired and a little bit beaten down. And that's where we need to muster up the courage. And again, we're talking about different versions of the same thing, but just shoving yourself out there to do something different, brave and bold. We did this a couple of years ago. A lot of schools do one book, one school. And I thought, why can't we flip this and do an all school writing project? And this is something actually very near and dear to my heart. And I'd love to find another way to do this in other schools. But anyway, there's a 6-word memoir book out there, and it's a wonderful concept for writing. And I could talk for days and days about it, but you can Google 6-word memoir, and there's a website, and there's many versions of the book. The first one, and this process was led by Larry Smith. The first one was called Not Quite What I Was Planning. And what we did is we thought we can have every kid in our school write something. They can write their story. And so teachers, we had some PD on this, and then the teachers led this in their classrooms, and every student wrote a story, 6 words. That's it. And we published them into one book. And so we had a book where all of our students had their story published, and we had some artwork added and so on. So it was just fun. It was brave. It was bold. I didn't know what I was doing. I was making one decision at a time just to try to make it work. But it felt bold, and it felt like something different nobody had done before. And it really helped bring us together, students and staff, really, in this 6-word writing process.
Wow, what a great idea. Do you remember any 6-word stories? Because I can't imagine trying to write a story in 6 words.
Oh, you have to get the book. There's many versions of it. And students were I don't have them with me right now, but
Sure.
The students were so eloquent. They were beautifully written. The 6-word idea actually came from what has been referred to as the shortest story ever written by Ernest Hemingway. And it's a terribly sad story. I can almost not say it without crying. And it is For Sale, Baby Shoes Never Worn. And that story, I think the beauty of a 6-word story is it opens up other stories. You can kind of fill in based on your own experiences. And so,
what a great idea.
Yeah. So Larry Smith took that, ran with it with the 6-word memoir idea. And there's a 6-word memoir book for immigrants, for teens. So there's different versions. And ours, as a school, the students were it's amazing how eloquent and thoughtful they can be with 6 words to tell their story. So
that's great. And Jen, while you were saying that, I just did a quick look at 6-word memoirs. So Principal Matters listeners, I'll give you a few more examples. This one is by someone named Stormy Weather Banks. Never let no one steal your joy.
Yep.
I love that.
Yep.
Or expect and accept unexpected and unacceptable. I can see how these could become really powerful ways.
Right.
I love this one. I came, I saw, I conquered.
Right.
It's a great example. I know that when we talk about balance, Jen.
Can I interrupt really quickly? I'm sorry.
Yeah, jump in.
One of the most powerful ones that was written by one of our 4th graders, 6 words. Everyone thinks I'm Mexican. I'm more. And so, that was just a way that student was saying, don't profile me. I'm more than where I'm from or the word you think I am. And we actually got lots of versions of that. Students who were using their 6 words to say, hey, I'm more than you think I am. So I just really wanted to throw that out there because we do a lot of unintentional profiling of students. And that's something that 6 words, it just takes 6 words for a student to say, yeah, don't do that.
That's so fantastic. So when you think about, what are the brave and bold things that we can be trying that will really reignite the passion that we have for our work? Jen, I was talking to a principal just last week. Her name is Melissa Hitt at Elgin Public Schools in Oklahoma. And at their school, a couple of years ago, they started a Make-A-Wish program for their students. And this was a rural community, but their teachers began to ask kids, if you could dream of something for someone else that you would love to see happen for them, what would that be? Or for yourself? And so students began to write down either a wish for themselves or for someone else. Most of them were choosing for someone else. And they began to pull those together. And their intention at the beginning was to just see if they could fulfill some of them. Let's pull a handful. But over time, they began to see that they were able to match more and more and more community resources to the fulfillment of kids' wishes. I'll give you an example. This one child who shared with the school that he had a family member who needed a liver transplant. And so, so for them, that was like, oh gosh, this is one of those that we'll never be able to fulfill. But as they spread the word and they began to raise awareness, that person eventually had someone that matched with them. And so, or the girl who said, I really would like to see my daddy by Christmas, whose father had been deployed, and they were able to work behind the scenes to get him to the school so that he could be there to surprise her at lunch. So these little things, they chose to be bold and brave and try something with their kids that they thought, well, let's just see how far this can go. Last year, Jen, that school, this is a small school, but they raised over $30,000 from their community to help fulfill the wishes of kids.
Yeah.
And so just powerful things like that. So 6-word memoirs, fulfilling the wishes, thinking outside the box. And what's cool about that, because I know some principals are listening to this thinking, how am I going to have time to do that when I'm trying to meet all my academic standards? And here's the dichotomy. When we take time to do those bold and brave things, they create the kind of emotional momentum that helps us stay motivated to fulfill the academic expectations that we have in the classroom.
Right.
They just go hand in hand.
They do. And it really empowers others too. If they feel like they're part of something really big and special, a lot of times they take better care of their own classrooms, their own students, and that takes a little bit of the pressure off the principal.
Well, before we wrap up today, Jen, I know you talk sometimes about equanimity. And so I want you just to go there for a few minutes. Why is that an important part of your mindset when it comes to balance?
Well, this goes back to know thyself. I tend to be a fast talker. I tend to get frantic. I tend to get very fast moving. And so this is just a word that speaks to me. I have it put in my office along the back wall. It really means mental calmness. It means composure. It means being even and a possession of self. And so this is something that I personally strive toward. Because I know my own weaknesses and I know how I can appear to others when things get hard or when things are out of balance, this is what I strive for. So what I would encourage Principal Matters listeners to do is find what it is that makes you anxious about yourself and decide how you're going to overcome that. For me, I'm lucky enough that when I just even remember the concept of equanimity and it brings up images for me of how I want to appear and feel, that helps. So this is certainly a self goal. But I think it would behoove all of us to find that self-goal. Maybe it lives in one word or it lives in a picture in your mind or a way of interacting with the world. But being calm, being composed, that's what our people need from us as leaders.
Wow. Well, Jen Schwanke, I know that we can continue and I've got other things I wanted to ask you about with balance. And so we will be continuing some further episodes of Principal Matters listeners. I just wanted to tell you that this is an ongoing conversation that Jen and I are having about ways that as leaders we can continue to reboot, to be re-energized, to rethink the way that we're leading. But this week, I want you to just leave thinking about the importance of focusing on your why, finding that why by connecting with the people that you're serving, enjoying the work that you're doing and not being afraid to laugh and to celebrate the silly or start a new committee like Jen did. Think about the ways that you can also, as Jen wraps up today's conversation too, think about those places in your own life where you need to be aware of yourself and how you can continue to grow in your own leadership so that you're modeling for people the kinds of experiences that you want them to have too. So Jen Schwanke, thank you so much for the time that you've taken this week to share with us. Principal Matters listeners, thanks for doing what matters.
Thanks, everyone, and we will talk to you soon.
If you'd like other free resources like this one, you can check out all my posts at williamdparker.com.